process in the sense that we'll hear it out, check the merits. But of course, given what the President has said, that might play into how we would appreciate the same. But I think it would be unfair to say that outright we will say no kasi trabaho po natin yun under the Constitution as part of the legislative branch.
So, sir, just, Mr. Ma'am, just because President Marcos said that message, hindi ibig sabihin no na magi-slow down yung House of Representatives with its investigation on the Vice President as well as the past administration doon sa mga Quadcom hearings?
I think just to answer po, no, we have to make a distinction. Our Quadcom hearings and the good government hearings are not in any way related to impeachment. Although there are people who would have that opinion na yung lumalabas dito sa mga hearings ito would be a ground, that would be a separate thing. We have our different agenda for the different committees, and we are still pursuing these hearings in relation to our functions sa committee. It should not be taken that if the President made a statement about impeachment, that would in any way affect the functions of the committee. Separate naman po yun. But if, however, some people would find basis to file any complaint based on what they found there, then that's something that would be a separate procedure altogether po.
In addition to that, I think what we're doing at the Quadcom is really to strengthen our policies, no? Amend certain policies na medyo may mga loopholes when it comes to the auditing standards, no? How we can account public funds that are being spent, no? According to joint circular, kasi ngayon we're talking about the joint circular memorandum. So we're looking at that and to pass legislations. This is entirely in aid of legislation. So tama nga yung sinabi ni Kong Rog, this has nothing to do with a possible impeachment complaint. No? So kailangan ma-separate. We have to, the term is compartmentalize the issue.
Lang po yung questions ka from my end. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dwight. Before I call the next reporter to ask question, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Assistant Majority Leader Jay Kumuhurap Sambales. Sir, thank you for joining us today. If you want, you can also join the table. Sandro Chona from Billionario TV, you're recognized.
Sir? Yeah. Good morning, sirs and ma'am. Na-mention ni SecJed na we may not have enough time kasi sabi niya they need at least 10 session days to act on an impeachment complaint. Kung i-file ngayon, your thoughts on that, sir? So, pwede bang tanggapin? Paano po ba? Pwedeng tanggapin and then maybe next year na?
I think our Secretary General will be answering based on the House rules. I don't know if we could speak on behalf of them. We are all neophytes here. This would be our first to entertain that. But if that is his opinion, then I think that should be, it has some weight naman po, no? But as for, on my part personally, I'm not aware of the limitation. If I understand the rules right, it must be acted upon within 10 days. So pwede naman right after, but I could be mistaken. So baka doon po nanggagaling si Secretary General Velasco.
So pwedeng next year na lang? Pwedeng next year na lang po?
Well, I think the Secretary General is speaking on the practicality of time. He wasn't really saying about the acceptance or receiving any complaint. So, kung 10 days siya, if that's according to the rules, how many days are left before we call for a break, no? 10 days. 9 session days. So I guess the Secretary General is well informed about the rules. So probably, the practicality of time, that would also be a problem. I guess it's a challenge.
Thank you. Bibian Gulia from ABS-CBN.
Sir, actually, how are you taking the President's message, the text message? Is it an order, a suggestion, and will you give it weight when you are faced with an impeachment on?
Wala akong natanggap na text eh.
But may confirmation.
Of course, we're going to put weight. Bibigyan namin naman kukonsidera namin yung message niya. Una sa lahat, again, 11-12 na, wala pa rin kaming, wala talaga. Sa totoo lang. And kayo naman, nandito kayo araw-araw. Wala pa rin, malalaman nyo yan kung meron na. Pero wala pa kaming natatanggap. So, wala. I mean, yes, ginagalang namin and binibigyan naming respeto and syempre, mag-weigh talaga yon pag dumating ang panahon na may mag-file ng impeachment complaint.
Just in addition to that lang po, no, I just want to categorize. I don't think order naman po yun. Kasi like we said, separate naman po yung executive and legislative. Pero ang kagandaan naman po with the government now, it's very open lines of communication. We've experienced that po kami sa legislative, although our functions and the secretaries, the president, and all the way down the line, they're very open po for communicating with us. And I think that's what's happening now the same way. I wouldn't call it a suggestion. Perhaps it's an advice, given his wisdom of what he sees in the situation. So, yun po. But I really don't think that is an order po, no? Because that's a different jurisdiction naman ng powers natin. Thank you.
Well, in addition to that, tama, re-echo yung statement mo ng mga kasamahan ko dito. Of course, we would respect the position o equal branch.
Thank you.
Second question.
Okay, go ahead, Bibian.
You did mention na parang patuloy pa rin, tama ba, yung mga investigasyon ng Quadcom? I mean, separate yung investigations ng Quadcom and ng good government on the OVP confidential funds. But sa schedule this week, parang wala pa po ako nakitang schedule ng hearing this week, whereas in the past, parang every week may hearings. How should we take this po? Wala po bang slowing down kumbaga doon sa mga hearings?
Well, it also depends kasi on the availability of our resource persons. So once we schedule the Squadcom, once we schedule the next committee hearing, we also consider yung availability ng possible na magiging resource persons. Kasi, of course, kailangan mong pag magkukwad ka, maghihiring ka, kailangan lahat ng tatanungin mong tanong at yung dapat na tanungin tao ay nandoon. So, yung scheduling naman is, I guess, wala pa, it's not official, but we're looking at possibly this within the week. No? Magkakaroon po ng continuation of the hearing ng Quad.
Just to add lang po siguro, dahil lang po wala sa schedule tapos hindi po tuloy. Like we mentioned, I think we're of the opinion, what we understand from what's happening sa Congress is that tuloy pa rin naman po yung ating mga hearings. It's just that as of now, although wala siya sa schedule, we have to take note under our rules, we have 3-day notice. So it could still happen. We have hearings from Mondays to Friday, so it could still be like either today or tomorrow you might receive the notice. But in addition to that, just what we've heard, I think one thing to also consider, although it's not a slowing down, it's Christmas season. Mahirap na rin po. All of our congressmen also have to be in the district. They have to be with their respective constituencies. So that might be one consideration aside from po yung sa resource person. So just because wala po sa schedule doesn't mean hindi po tuloy. It's just a matter of time. Scheduling lang po siguro.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bibian. Big Sumintak from Net25.
Morning po. Sir, regarding dun sa issue ng time constraint natin kasi 9 session days na lang, tapos according to SecGen, 10 days kung sakaling mag-file yung to act on the impeachment complaint. All in all, sabi niya doon sa prosesong yon 130 days. So papasok na tayo by February ng election session. Pero based on our observation on the previous impeachment, like for example, the impeachment case of former President Joseph Estrada, may isang mode na pwedeng i-shortcut siya. Now, what you need only is to get the 1/3 signature of the member of the House of Representatives in order to para mabuo yung tinatawag na article of impeachment. May we know kung sa leadership, sa majority, aside from the statement coming from the President, kung talagang may balak na i-impeach si Vice President? Nasa agenda ba ng majority using the shortcut method?
Well, yung sa kay former president, but that's a direct action taken by the House, previously. So ito kasi sinasabi nga namin, there's no advice. We don't actually discuss about impeachment, no. Parati ho namin sinasabi to, there's no official or there's no formal discussion or talks among the leadership, and even sa amin po, about a possible filing of the impeachment. Actually, ang naririnig po natin na may ready for filing yung kanilang complaint are yung mga ibang grupo po outside. But as far as the leadership is concerned, that is, to me, within 9 days, na sinasabi ni Secgen, that cannot happen because it only possible if the House directly has taken action on the complaint, meaning if you have secured, I guess, a number of signatures of the House, that's the time that you can actually talk about impeachment directly in the plenary. So hindi mangyayari yun.
Well, again, we aren't in any discussion of any specific process or method na gagamitin because as emphasized, wala namang nagpa-file pa.
But just to answer lang po yung question, I think because it's theoretical. There are the three modes po, no? And I think it would be correct to say that by the third mode, if you're able to secure 1/3 signatures, it would go directly. So just to answer the question, if I understood it correctly, tama po, that would be a way siguro around the 10-day rule. However, as mentioned, it really would depend. Kasi practically speaking, wala pa pong nangyayari. Because you have to take note, it's not just magic po, yung 1/3 number of signatures, that's quite a lot. It's 100 plus. So kung meron man, there should be word about it right now, and unfortunately we don't. We've always been consistent when we say po na we haven't heard about impeachment. Usually it's from the outside. Before it came from other camps. Now we're hearing about complaints from private citizens, pero that's still outside pa po. So technically speaking, nothing has started. So we can't really speak about yung timeline po.
Thank you. Marian Enriquez from TV5.
Would you like to comment po dun sa recently sinabi po ni VP Sara Duterte, I think in response po dun sa statement po ni Congressman Conghon regarding dun sa, nag-stem po lahat nitong gulo nung the past weekend dahil dun sa kanyang ambisyon tumakbo. And I would like to quote, VP Sara Duterte said, "The presidency of 2022 was mine already. Nanalo na ako sa surveys, lahat ng tao solid na united na for my candidacy. Pero I gave it away because I felt I had to do some other things other than being President of the Republic of the Philippines." So kindly, would you like to comment on that?
Then why didn't she run? If she had it in the bag, she should have... Dapat tumakbo siya. I mean, 2025 na eh. 'Di ba? Ngayon mo pa sasabihin yan. Di sana tumakbo siya. Tsaka yung presidency, kita naman nating lahat sa history, destiny yan. Kung talagang para sa kanya yon, then dapat para sa kanya yon. Kasi 'di ba, I mean, what was that statement for? Then she should have filed to be president, to run for president, but she didn't. She filed to run for vice president, and now she's our vice president. So that's what it is. Yun siya.
Would you also like to comment on this statement? Yes. I think this is particularly for the House members. Huwag nila ako i-gaslight into saying na ako ang dahilan ng kaguluhan na ito. Ang kaguluhan na ito ay nagsimula sa terrorism nila, sa harassment nila, sa threats nila sa mga personnel of the office of the Vice President. I mean, particularly about the Good Government Committee hearing po.
Miss Marian. Hindi. To put it quite frankly, hindi naman, if there's smoke, there's fire. Yung mga ganyan naman, it started with a speech of Congressman Valeriano, dinala sa committee, nag-hearing. And in the course of those hearings, ang daming lumabas. Ang daming acknowledgement receipts, ang daming lumabas na pwede naman sanang sagutin. And it's not gaslighting. Again, it is what it is. Ang dami, hindi naman, di ba, kami, nagpapagod kami, nagpupuyat kami para silipin yung mga dokumento na yon, para isa-isahin. And ang dami naming nakikita. In fact, marami pa kaming nakita na hindi pa namin na itatanong. So, hindi siya terrorism on our part na we're terrorizing the OVP. Had they answered the questions from the very beginning, then sana tapos na sana yung mga hearings ngayon. Ang problema, they spent so much time not attending the hearings, and now that they are attending, di ba? So, kung sana nung umpisa pa lang, pumunta na sila, then sana tapos na, nasagot na sana nila. Yun lang. Uy, sumagot ka.
Well, ganito kasi Maria, no? We're actually promote what we're trying to exercise here is the mandate of this office. I mean the mandate of the legislature. The only way for us to really find out is to hold these inquiries, no? And to hold anybody accountable. Yun lang man talaga yung pinaka gusto natin mangyari in aid of legislation. Tama po yung sinabi ni Kong Pami na we are not pinpointing a specific person here. It's just to happen that the allegation of misuse of public funds are all directed to the office which he occupies right now, which the Vice President occupies right now. Hindi naman ho natin kasalanan yun, di ba? Sabi nga ni Pami Tadhana, nagkataon po nang naging Vice President siya. So number one, the issue is there. There are so many questions that up to now have not fully answered. There are so many questions and the manner by which these confidential funds were spent. There are questionable ARs, which I guess only the officers in charge of encashing these funds and redistributing these funds, releasing these funds, can be fully supply us the answers, the correct answers. Unfortunately, during the course of our investigation, there seems to be an evasion, a direct evasion, to a point that there was a deliberate refusal to attend, to a point of, sa palagay ho namin sa committee, it's an attempt to frustrate the committee in finding out the truth and for a possible filing of a sound legislation that can rectify these wrongs. So ganun lang po. I think we should focus on the issue and not to dwell on concerns that may divert our attention, which is to hold anybody accountable and to promote transparency in government.
In addition po siguro, and to answer the question of Marian of TV5, I think the two quotes mentioned were interrelated in the sense na the spring issue. She's answering the issue by bringing up politics, yung presidency. But I think what we have to note here is that this issue goes way back po, no? Before the Good Government Committee and before people were talking about dahil po ito ay in relation to the presidency, whether 2022 or 2028, we had questions na po. And this started with no other than yung sa budget hearings natin, which was supposed to be sponsored by Congressman Adyong.
Yes.
Yun po, doon po yung nagsimula. Before anything on politics or anything about which camp or what, the question is really how the budget was spent, how the confidential funds were spent, and the failure to attend to that, the failure to defend it, although it had its corresponding slash in the budget, it's not sufficient po. And kaya nga po pumasok yung good government. So, to answer the issue by saying po that this is related to politics, I hope we could set that aside. Whether a certain person feels na sa kanya yung presidency, dati naman, or if it's about the future presidency, we have to set it aside because what we're talking about here is yung accountability doon sa expenditure of the confidential funds. And it just goes to show, it goes back to that point. No? We've had this question during the budget, we've had it near the committee hearings, and we will continue to have it until we have answers. If the OVP officials, what was the term a while ago, terrorizing or harassing, had they appeared earlier, had they answered our questions during the budget, baka tapos na po yung ating, we wouldn't have had to come to that committee hearing. So I think that's where we're coming from. This is a mandate constitution, power of the purse, together with oversight. Yun lang naman po yung inatupag po namin dito. Yan lang. Thank you.
So medyo nakakapanibago kasi wala pa po sa calendar natin any good government for quad committee hearing. May effect po ba yung impact, yung message ni PBBM with that? May ceasefire ba?
Yung sa good government, we were supposed to meet Friday, tama ba? No, we were supposed to meet Friday. We were supposed to meet Friday, Marian. And I remember, ako yun, I actually called the chairman na I was of personal opinion kung maaari bang i-postpone yung hearing dahil nabanggit nga ng ating Vice President na she was going to skip the NBI, yung patawag ng NBI, dahil kailangan niyang pumunta sa hearing. So, and the committee agreed to postpone the hearing. So actually, dapat nung Friday nag-hearing tayo. And then, for sure naman, within the day or tomorrow, maglalabas kami ng schedule kung kailan.
Ako medyo mag-react lang ako dun sa word na ginamit mo, Miss Maria, na ceasefire. Kasi in the first place, we're not in war with anybody. We are not doing this against anybody. We are actually doing our job. There's a question of accountability. There's the issue on upholding transparency in government affairs, especially if it concerns the utilization of public funds. So wala hong giyera dito. Ito po ay mandato ng legislatura. Ito po ay binigay ng Constitution na dapat, hindi lang mandato, it's an obligation and responsibility. So I don't see why some people look at this as something na giyera. So to me, hindi ho ceasefire. We just do our job. We'll continue to do our job. And wala po kaming ginigera sino man o kanino man.
Well, again, in addition to that lang po siguro, Marian, no? Binanggit po earlier, it's related to an earlier question. And I think regardless po no, of ceasefire na sinasabi kung meron man, it's really a matter of consideration for the committee na baka po yung resource persons are still gathering, availability of the congressmen. We've seen as early as Friday last week, as according to Congresswoman Zamora, we were supposed to have a hearing. So tuloy-tuloy naman po talaga. It's just these considerations. But just an additional comment po, like what Congressman Adyong said regarding sa ceasefire, I think that's very politically charged. When you say ceasefire po, parang sinasabi, it's an intentional move to cause harm of sorts in parang gera. Like have always been calling, we've always been saying earlier, let's set aside politics po. We're just doing our job here. We're talking about transparency and accountability. So doon lang naman po yung issue natin. Whether or not the scheduling has a problem, I think that's separate naman po. But I do believe from our understanding, tuloy pa rin po yung Quadcom and good government.
Okay na, Ms. Maria.
Thank you, Marian.
Thank you. Melalis Moras from PTV4.
Speaking of good government hearing lang po, can I just ask yung ano po yung naging basis dun sa pag-release ng release order kay Attorney Zulaika Lopez, and moving forward, ano na pong mangyayari sa kanya? Nung weekend, nung Sabado po kasi nag-release na yung House Committee on Good Government ng release order kay Attorney Zulaika Lopez. Paano po tayo nag-come up sa committee? Maybe si Kong J din po. Pero I think member din po si Kong Adjong. Yung naging basis lang po natin dun sa order, and moving forward, yun po, nag-commit po ba si Attorney Zulaika sa committee na haharap pa rin siya sa mga susunod na pagdinig?
Ang alam ko kasi yung maximum na penalty for the contempt is actually 5 days. No, it was extended for 5 days. And number two, the consideration also is that yung medical condition ni Attorney Zulaika, she was admitted at the Veterans Medical Center, and prior to her yung pag-discharge sa kanya, I think our Secretary General ang SAA communicated with the doctor, the physician attending Attorney Zulaika, and the decision of the committee was to release her based on the number of days that she was cited under contempt, no, for a detention. So yun po yung naging consideration. Remember, yung detention niya she was supposed to be transferred to correctional, but due to medical issues, the committee decided to allow her to be admitted at the Veterans Medical Center. But sinabi naman po niya, I guess yung sa sulat niya, sinabi niya she will cooperate should the committee continue on hearing the case of the OVP, DepEd. OVP ba? And DepEd confidential funds. Nag-assure naman siya na she'll be attending the next committee hearings.
Opo. So next hearing, Kong Zia, expected natin na harap si Attorney Zulaika Lopez as well as yung 4 na naka-firm.
Yes, if there's no medical problem or immediate medical attention that she might need, I guess there's no reason for her not to attend.
Sorry, baka lang po may info din kayo. Si Mark Taguba po ay pinayagan na ng Bureau of Corrections na manatili nga dito sa House. Ano po yung magiging process doon if we have info? Hanggang kailan po kaya dito siya dito mag-stay? And ano po ba yung process pagka convicted yung nasa mas mahigpit po ba yung security? Kung meron lang po tayong info about it.
Merong request for transfer. Yes. Si Mark Taguba kasi during our last hearing, ito si George can also say something about the request. Si Mark Taguba kasi he's been receiving death threats, no? So he requested na kung pwede, since na the Quadcom will be holding continuous committee hearing, that it would be, I guess, safer kasi yung pag-transport kasi ng mga resource persons natin the request was requested to the BJMP, diba? It's the Bureau of Jail Management. So it was requested, and then pumayag naman po sila kasi it also happened to other resource persons. So it would be more convenient and easier for us to request these resource persons anytime that should their attendance or their presence are needed in the Quadcom. So yun lang po yung nag-request po, and then it was granted the request. That's why he's now under the custody, under the detention facility natin.
So until nag-hearing po yung
alam ko until such time that the committee will file its committee report, the termination of the Quadcom, and that's the time that Mark Taguba will also have to return back to where he is imprisoned.
Hello. Morning. Kongs. I'm Chino from GMA7. I'd just like to ask, while it's clear that yung work of the Quadcom and the other committees on investigating the alleged irregularities may or may not lead to an impeachment complaint, is there also a safeguard na someone might safeguard against someone that might actually stymie the impeachment process by filing a defective complaint? May mga ganun ba kayong pag-uusap na, somebody just file a defective complaint and then it'll be barred for, I think, a year, pagkatapos diba? So, is there safeguards or are there talks about that?
Sorry, sir, I won't be able to talk about safeguard. Well, for one, I don't think it's been discussed. If there have been discussions on safeguards regarding that issue, probably beyond our circles, kami po, we're just members here. But from my understanding po, and I could be wrong because, again, as mentioned, we're neophytes. When there is a pending complaint for impeachment, in either of the three modes, I think if it is defective, the third mode would be eliminated right away because I don't think 1/3 of the House would vote on that and promote that. But for a defective impeachment complaint to have been filed and to be endorsed by a congressman or congresswoman in either of the, or the second mode also, by which an incumbent congressman or congresswoman would file that defective complaint, I think these two would still have to go through the Justice Committee, and I think that's where they would thresh out the defective complaint. But whether that would trigger the 1-year ban under the Constitution, I'm not too familiar. But I think that's the safeguard in the rules, is that it would be dealt with by the Justice Committee po.
Sirs, ma'am.
Hello.
Sirs, ma'am. Kuha lang po kami ng reaction dun po sa hinihiling na investigation sa NBI ni Kong Barbers dun sa mga vloggers na yung organized vloggers na nagkakalat daw ng maling impormasyon. Tong J.
Just to start lang po siguro, I think we all here in the House, I can't speak for them, but I think we would be in support po of the call ni Chairman Barbers. As we have noticed, although this is beyond already the scope of what's going on, as an effect, we've witnessed po kung anong nangyayari with these bloggers, and I think he also made mention of yung mga troll farms. And it seems to be a concerted effort po talaga. While freedom of speech is protected right under our Constitution, it has to be tempered rin po with responsible practice and use. And in fact, it is penalized under libel or slander. Well, libel mostly in relation to printed and published media. There's that safeguard. So I think what Chairman Barbers is asking for isn't anything new. It's just that he is asking for assistance given the complexity and the complexity of the issue. Kasi po when we're talking about itong vloggers and social media, you have questions of jurisdiction, you have questions of cyberspace, the issue of anonymity. Yun po yung nakakatakot po dito. We have congressmen and congresswomen who, whether or not it is related to their function, have been receiving threats. They have been receiving anonymous messages, either death threats or threats to their families. And it should be something that no one should be subjected to. Free speech is one thing, but to rely on character assassination is a totally different issue. And I think Chairman Barbers was just speaking up for the welfare of not only the congressmen, but for a healthy discourse po ng society in general. So I think we support that definitely, and we are hoping that the DOJ will help us. Kasi po, if it is proven talaga that these sophisticated schemes are being employed to really target congressmen, congresswomen, not for their personality, but for that political purpose, then it must be something that should be acted on po talaga. So, yun na po.
Ako, I have no problem with people having different opinions and position. Kasi that's what democracy is all about. We have to enjoy, we have to celebrate the diverse opinions, in diversity, because that's actually is fuel to keep democracy running. But unfortunately, in this kind of online landscape, we've seen troll farms, we've seen bloggers, hindi ko naman nila lahat, who are up for grabs. Sometimes they've been used by political propaganda to malign, discredit a certain perceived enemy. Sa akin, pag hindi ho natin ito mapag-usapan, it counters the very foundation of democracy, because how can you have a populace with informed decision kung ang binibigay mo sa kanila ay puro mali, fake, and disinformation? I guess this is a call for every one of us that in order for us to maintain a healthy communication space for everyone, dapat ho natin din magkaroon ng safeguards na hindi mahaluan ito ng propaganda, peking propaganda, at maling mga impormasyon. The only way for us to have a healthy space for conversation is to basically agree on facts. Unfortunately, naging subjective ang facts ngayon. Dahil dun yung karamihan po sa mga trolls, mga troll farms, dinidistort nila yung facts. So I guess that yun ang intention ni Congressman Chairman Barbers, that we can disagree, but at least let's agree on facts. And, para sa akin, ako personally, I would support the move of Congressman Chairman Barbers para po maprotektahan natin yung magandang spasyo sa pakikipagtalakayan sa publiko.
Okay. Next question from Billy Vegas, Avanti Politico.
Habol ko lang po, meron pong sinabi si VP Sara. Sabi po niya, pa-sure pa daw na dadalo siya doon sa hearing ng good government kaysa doon sa patawag ng NBI. Reaction lang.
We look forward to it.
We look forward to seeing the Vice President.
I think additional comment lang po, no, in relation to yung nangyari last week. I think it's unfortunate po kasi po if you remember, meron po tayo sanang Good Government Committee nung Friday and it was intentionally canceled to allow for the Vice President to attend the NBI subpoena set on the same date. Because at the time that the cancellation, we found out po that the VP was using the Good Government Committee as a reason po not to attend the NBI. So out of respect and courtesy, we've already had quite a number of Good Government Committee hearings. Not that we're saying one is more important than the other, but given that this would be the first and bago pa lang yung issue of NBI, it might concern national security. Nag-give in layman's terms, nag-give way po yung committee. Ngunit hindi po nag-attend yung ating Vice President. So, again, we see it now. There is the commitment at least to attend good government, but she is giving the condition na baka hindi po sa NBI. I don't understand po siguro, di ko po naiintindihan siguro kung bakit it would be easier to commit to one and not to the other. I think that she should commit to both po because these are both legal processes that have to be complied with. And I hope that if there's anything, I hope yun po yung gawin po niya. Thank you.
Okay, last question from Joy Cantos from Filipino Star ngayon.
Good morning po, sir. Hingi lang po sana ng reaction doon sa sinabi ng some political analyst that the president will be seen as a weak leader if the impeachment for VP Sara will not be subjected to impeachment po. If
To answer po, no. Of course, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that political analysts, if they believe impeachment is the only route to show strength, then we can't change that. But siguro po, ako personal opinion for this representation, impeachment is not the only avenue to exert kung ano man yung tama. As we've discussed prior, wala naman pong immunity ng Vice President. There are also possibilities for criminal accountability, criminal liability to be had through, yun nga po, and we've seen it. The PNP has filed cases, the DOJ, through the NBI started investigation. So it's not the only way to, exact accountability for those acts. But regarding impeachment po, that's a totally different matter also. And it would not come from the president. I don't know why it should reflect on the president because the impeachment complaint should come from either private citizen or that endorsed by the member of Congress. So if wala po mag-file, then how could that reflect po on the leadership of the executive? So I think that's just my comment for the expansion po siguro ng discussion ng political analysts na yun.
Actually, dadagdagan ko lang, no, kailangan po natin maintindihan na magkaiba po yung trabaho ng executive at saka legislative. If it's about the impeachment, possible impeachment complaint, it's entirely up to the House members, no, on how they would appreciate the merits of the possible impeachment complaints. Let's not, for me, yung position po ng President is just his personal take on that. And that should not be taken as something that maybe, as a gauge on how strong he is as a leader. I think he has so strong points naman eh. Kasi ang sinabi naman po niya doon, let's focus on nation building, let's focus on the problems. That's how he viewed that with the yung lens na yung access niya po, being the top executive official in the land. No? He's the #1 president. He's running the affairs of the government. When you talk about complaint or possible complaint ng impeachment, that is purely a legislative process na it's, again, depends on how the membership, individual members will look at the merits. No? Balikan ko lang po yung kaninang tanong ni ng ating kaibigan, boss. I think choosing between the two, it's not really a matter of choice. Eh. It's actually I think it's proper, and it's how a official respect the rule of law, and the demands of these cases filed before the NBI should be squarely dealt with by the head of the office, meaning the Vice President herself. So it's not really a choice between which does he favor this the committee hearing of the Quadcom or the NBI. Both are important. And if we talk about transparency and accountability, it is demanded of her to put urgency on these two venues for her to really explain, and then maybe explain her side or her own position on the allegation that were thrown at her and her office. No? So ganun lang po, idadagdag ko lang po sa sinabi ni Kong Rog.
Sir, just a follow-up, sir. Are you in favor of impeachment versus President Sara? Maybe not now due to time's constraint, but next year, next Congress, sir.
Are you in favor of impeachment?
Impeachment.
Ikaw daw, Congress.
Wala pa naman pong hinahain na impeachment complaint. So I think it's preemptive na sumagot sa ganung mga katanungan. Kung meron na pong impeachment complaint, depende mo po sa substance, yung merits ng complaint na yon.
I think what's happened po kasi is people are equating yung impeachment to a political exercise. It's whether you are for or against the person. But I hope we don't forget the fact that an impeachment is based on grounds. This is not on personality. It is about the facts that attend the facts and circumstances surrounding po an alleged violation. So we're talking about graft and corruption, betrayal of public trust, culpable violation of the Constitution. If wala pa pong basis, and rightly so, as mentioned by Congressman Adyong, kung wala pong inihain pa na complaint, how can we base po, how do we say na these are the facts are ready for impeachment? So we can't say we're for or against until we've seen po the complaint. Yun lang po.
Thank you. To our honorable guest, kindly proceed with your short opening, closing remarks, rather.
Nagpapasalamat kami sa inyong mga katanungan. I mean, for sure naman, this week will be a colorful week, and the next 2 weeks ahead. Andito lang naman kami to always answer your questions. So maraming salamat, and we hope that everyone has a good day ahead.
Sa ngalan po ng aming leader, si AML Konghun, kami po ay nagpapasalamat sa inyo, aming mga kaibigan sa media. But thank you for this opportunity. We hope we're able to answer your questions. Thank you po. Good morning.
Thank you.
Kong Sia.
Marami